two are definitely on the naughty list.
Oh, come on,
Santa, we did it!
But you forgot the most important gift.
Nunchuck?
New plane.
Lots and lots and lots of grapes.
The gift of knowing you're part of a family.
Thank
spare me. Alright guys, so got another Bladeslinger vlog for you. So Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is due out next weekend, and everyone is excited for it, primarily because Shadow is in the movie. Oh man, as a lot of you guys probably know, I'm really indifferent to these movies, so I'm not the most excited for it, but you know what, it's something to see, and I've already seen everything else in this movie franchise so far, so might as well round everything out and give Sonic 3 a chance. Maybe this will be the one this time, though. I highly doubt it. So for the next couple of videos, I'm going to be giving some more complete thoughts on Sonic's film franchise. I've already given my thoughts on the Knuckles the Echidna series, so if you want to know my full thoughts on that, check out my YouTube channel, check out that video, and it'll also give you some general thoughts as what I think of Sonic's other films as well. But to make a long story short, the Knuckles series sucks. It should be called Wade Whipple and Knuckles, and I think you can tell what's wrong with the film there. It's not about Knuckles, it's about Donut Lord's sidekick or whatever he is. So yeah, that's what I think of that. But getting to the original Sonic movie. Now, I was actually aware of this Sonic movie for the longest time. I remember reading the plot synopsis for it way back in high school, believe it or not. And while they did thankfully change some ideas that they had for the film before it came out, I still was not a fan of what they had planned for the film. And then I saw the initial poster for it, saw how they were designing Sonic, and that indifference turned to disgust, and then that disgust turned to just baffling bewilderment when I actually got a good look at Sonic. Like, I do not know what these filmmakers were thinking with that design. Like, did they actually think that anybody, not just fans of the franchise, would respond positively to how Sonic looked there? He looks awful, even by the standards of, you know, anything else. What were you people thinking? Thankfully, somebody got their head out of their ass at Paramount and decided to delay the film and completely redo Sonic. And as I said in the Knuckles video, this was no small task. They didn't just have to flip a switch from good to bad. They had to redesign Sonic, which in and of itself is a very tiring process. They had to redo all the shots in the film that featured him because he is completely CGI. So a lot of work had to be done, and the fact that they turned it around in so little time is a major feat, I would say. So because of the effort that they showed, I decided that the film at least deserved a viewing. So I went to see the film with Steffi opening weekend, and I didn't think it was bad when I saw it, but at the same time, I knew for a fact that I didn't really like the movie. And that's always just been my opinion of the first Sonic movie. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just a film that I am 100% indifferent to. Alright, so what is the plot of the Sonic movie? Well, in this film, it takes a page from Sonic X and depicts Sonic as an alien from another dimension who is forced to flee to our world when a group of villains attempt to capture him and steal his powers. So for a little over 10 years, Sonic has been hiding out under the nose of humanity in the small town of Green Hills. That is until he accidentally discharges too much energy, which catches the attention of the United States government, who dispatch the Mad Dr. Robotnik to go after Sonic, who plans on capturing Sonic, siphoning his power, and using it for his own nefarious purposes. And now Sonic decides that he needs to get the F out of Dodge and relocate to a new dimension. To do so, he intends to use warp rings, but when he's discovered by Donut Lord, he accidentally teleports his rings to San Francisco, and with no idea of how to get there, he kind of guilt trips Donut Lord into taking him there, and the two embark on a cross-country road trip to get to San Francisco so Sonic can get his warp rings back and flee to safety. All the while, Dr. Robotnik is chasing after them and trying to kill them. Okay, so what is it I do not like about this movie? Well, it really comes down to one singular thing, and that is how they portray Sonic. I hate how Sonic is portrayed here because it is just so far removed from everything that I love about him as a character. Now, I understand that Sonic is a character who has been subject to a lot of interpretation over the years, considering how long he's been around. But I feel there are three key characteristics that every version up to this point has had, and those traits are his attitude, his love of freedom, and his sense of right. So, to explain further, in regards to Sonic's attitude, this is what most people get wrong about the character. They assume that, oh, he has an attitude, so he's an asshole, he's kind of a jerk, he's impatient. And while a lot of that is often what it comes off as, Sonic's attitude more or less comes from his confidence. Regardless of the continuity, Sonic tends to be one of the most powerful characters in his world, and that's just something that Sonic is aware of. So whenever a major threat to the world arises, if someone is causing trouble for others or threatening others, Sonic tends to react in that manner he would, typically making fun of the bad guys, quipping with them, and mocking them as he just dodges all their attacks. And the reason he does that is because Sonic is just a badass with nothing to fear. He knows that whatever is coming at him, he can deal with. And part of the reason he does that is because he also wants to make everyone around him feel comfortable. Letting them know that, don't worry, it's going to be okay, I'm going to take care of this. And that also goes hand in hand with Sonic's love of freedom. Sonic is a character who does not need fame, he does not need fortune, he doesn't need people to know his name. As long as Sonic can run free, that's all that he needs. All he wants to do is just be able to go where the wind takes him, see the world on his own terms, and just do what he wants, live by his own rules. Which is why Sonic tends to react so negatively to people like Dr. Robotnik, Gun, Eraser Jin, or any number of characters from the Archie comics who try to exert some kind of dominance or influence over him, because he is just too powerful to really care about what they think, and he's annoyed that they think that they can bring him to heel, which just isn't the case. And then this also comes into play with Sonic's sense of right. Even though Sonic is aware of how powerful he is, he doesn't view that as a means to just do whatever he wants without consequence. Sonic instead views his freedom as a means to do the right thing, and in addition to that, he also wants to ensure that everyone else around him gets to enjoy the same freedom he does, because while Sonic is powerful enough to resist anyone who wants to rob him of his freedom, the same can't really be said for everyone else. So that's why Sonic is always quick to jump into action when the world is in danger or someone else is just in trouble, because he doesn't want people to lose the freedom that he loves so much. And based on all that, you can probably tell that this is not the character that is in the Sonic movie. For starters, Sonic doesn't have a lot of confidence in this movie. In fact, he has a tremendous amount of insecurity in this movie. And this mostly comes to the fact that he's unsure if he'll be accepted. He's afraid that people are going to want to take his powers. All that stuff. And I just find that nonsensical, because the Sonic I know wouldn't care. Yeah, he would know that people are coming for his powers, but he knows that they aren't going to be able to take it. And he wouldn't have that insecurity about people accepting him, because again, Sonic really wouldn't care. He would be happy if people were friendly with him, and he would be friendly back, but he's not going to care if people dislike him or not. And like this insecurity also hinders freedom. Sonic is sedentary in this movie. He has a home in Green Hill and he's very attached to it. Just the fact that he doesn't know where San Francisco is already. Like the Sonic I know from day one would have been running all over the United States and probably Canada and South America as well. So the fact that he's so attached and at home in Green Hill just seems strange to me. And chief among them being, this Sonic has a very, very, very basic idea of right and wrong, and he's not always good at following it. I think the moment that really made me hate this version of Sonic was when he learns that Donut Lord is planning on quitting his job as the sheriff of Green Hills and moving to San Francisco to be a police officer there. Sonic calls him out on this, saying that he's abandoning everyone in Green Hills who relies on him. And that really bugged me because that, more than anything, is not something Sonic would do. While Sonic wouldn't necessarily say that it's a good or bad idea, he would still give Donut Lord the thumbs up and probably commend him for chasing his dreams because, you know, it's his choice to do that, and he'd probably respect the fact that, you know, he wants to go make a difference for someone in a big city rather than just staying in Green Hills and just doing menial tasks for, like, let's be real, the idiots that live there. So, yeah, like, 3 simple things. He loves his freedom, he has his confidence, and he has a very strong sense of right and wrong. None of that is in this movie, and sorry to say, because of that, this is just not Sonic. And because of that, I don't think there's ever going to be a world where I can enjoy this movie, because I'm seeing a character who looks like Sonic, at times sounds like Sonic, and definitely moves like Sonic, but it's just not Sonic. And I know what a lot of people are going to say in response to all this. Well, that's incompatible with the backstory that they gave him. Well, that's also kind of my point, the fact that they gave Sonic a backstory to begin with. While some series and continuities have given some suggested origins as to Sonic's abilities, most of them are 100% non-canon, and the video games, you know, which are typically treated as the canon, Sonic usually doesn't have any kind of backstory. And while a lot of people would say that makes him a shallow character, to me that's always been a strength because it speaks to Sonic's sense of right. Sonic is often asked why he's choosing to interfere, why he's choosing to help people, even though he doesn't necessarily have a stake in what's going on. And Sonic tends to dismiss that question for one simple reason: it does not matter. And that's the main reason why I hold Sonic in such high regard as a character, because he's the character who taught me that. While my mom and dad are probably the ones who taught me the difference between right and wrong, Sonic is the one who taught me the reason you do the right thing in the first place. You do the right thing because it's the right thing. So yeah, this film just really annoys me in regards to how it portrays Sonic. And they didn't have to do it like this. Like, if I were given the reins of a Sonic movie, how I would have done this first movie, I actually would have had it mostly follow from the perspective of Tails, have him meet Sonic for the first time, have them grow as friends, and then have the two of them go to fight Dr. Robotnik for the first time. That way you could see Sonic's world from Tails' perspective, and then learn about Sonic as a person as Tails does. And you could do this without having to go into Sonic's backstory, but still develop him in a meaningful way. Have your perception of Sonic grow as Tails grows as a person through his interactions with Sonic, which is how it's supposed to be. But no, this film was clearly made by people who mostly go by charts, what films of a similar subject matter are successful, or it was just made by people who either didn't know how much narrative potential they had with this character, or even worse, just didn't care. Because really all they had to do to make this film a success was just make sure Sonic said a lot of funny pop culture stuff to make the kids smile, like with it wouldn't take much for this film to do well, and obviously the filmmakers knew that because it just always felt to me like they were putting the bare minimum forth here. Okay, so that was a longer rant than I anticipated. So how is the film if you completely ignore all those issues I have with the portrayal of Sonic here? It's not terrible, I guess you could say, and really it's not. At the end of the day, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is just kind of a harmless kids flick. That is part of my issue with it, but even in that regards, I wouldn't say it's anything spectacular either. I mean, another one of my biggest issues with this movie is despite the fact that Sonic is a very action-centric character, the film is predominantly a comedy. And that's a shame because when the action is on screen, it is pretty good. The scene where Dr. Robotnik attacks Sonic and Donut Lord on the highway is actually a fun scene. The final chase where Sonic is being pursued by Dr. Robotnik in the Eggmobile through the streets of San Francisco and eventually all over the world thanks to the warp rings, that is a really fun scene. The ending where Sonic just curb stomps Eggman, unlocking his true powers, that is also awesome. Again, you see this stuff and it does make you say you're watching a Sonic movie, but the majority of the film is not that. It's just Sonic getting up to cartoon shenanigans, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Whenever it's Sonic doing funny stuff with his speed, that's a good time. Whenever Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik is on screen, he's always entertaining. That's a lot of fun. But when a joke dies in this movie, it really dies. There are times in this film where it's just a complete bore to watch. And there are some lines in there that are just so bad, I can't even believe that they made it into the film. And those who have seen the movie probably know which line I'm talking about specifically. But watching it again, there are a lot of stinkers in this movie. As for the cast, it's okay. Ben Schultz, I think his name is, does the voice of Sonic, and while he definitely doesn't do a bad job, I just can't help but hear Dewey Duck every time he speaks in this movie, and that's not a good thing, because Dewey Duck is a character that is defined by a lot of insecurity, so having that voice come out of Sonic just doesn't work for me. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. Definitely wouldn't have been my first choice. When I think of Dr. Robotnik, like my first choice would have been someone like Jason Alexander. But Jim Carrey does just fine. And you know what? Jim Carrey is always entertaining, and he was definitely the funniest part of the movie. So yeah, I appreciate the fact that he was at least giving it all to a film like this. Even the human characters, I was really expecting to hate Donut Lord and his wife, but surprisingly, I found myself really liking them. I thought they had a really strong moral compass, particularly Donut Lord. But again, the fact that I can't even recall his real name, like Donut Lord is a name that Sonic gives him because he often practices public speaking by talking to donuts. That should speak to how endearing this guy is as a character, and I'm not sure why he's stuck around in the franchise for so long. What else about the movie? Despite the fact that it's a Sonic movie, there's very little in the games in this movie. Green Hill Zone is on screen for all but a couple of minutes. It is cool that they reference the lore with the echidnas by having them coming after Sonic in the intro, which is really cool. The warp rings are a neat little reference, but apart from that, there isn't much that's going to bring the games to mind here. There isn't even any music in this movie from it, aside from a brief instance where the theme song plays. It's just... Again, I'm not trying to say that this is the worst movie of all time or anything. Believe me, I have seen much worse than this. But at the same time, I'm just annoyed that I've waited for them to do a movie like this for so long, and to just see them put so little effort into it while somehow having it return in dividends, it just bothers me. It just really bothers me. So I guess what I should end with is, do I recommend the Sonic movie? And to be honest, No, I wouldn't. I think there are much better movies that you can watch, better movies that you can show your kids. But at the same time, you just need something that'll shut your kids up for a little bit while you do some laundry or something. There are worse films you can put on you as well. But yeah, that's about all I got for this movie. Tune in next time as I get my thoughts on the sequel that everyone loves so much. See you then.